Alright, my peoples, we're doing another video by Captain Gold. Could you survive the train to Busan? As you know, I've already done a previous video by him called Could You Survive the Haran Virus? If you haven't seen that video, please check it out. Subscribe to Captain Gold. He does a lot of the same videos about zombie content. And so today we're gonna get into this one. Make sure you like, subscribe, and comment below. Get me to 1K by the end of 2026. And let's get into it.
In 2016, Train to Busan electrified audiences with a relentless...
Also, if you haven't checked out Train to Busan, please do so. It's a pretty good movie about zombie infection through South Korea. And it's about a train traveling to Busan, and the train's full of dead people trying to eat the main characters. And spoiler alert, nobody makes it out alive except for 2 females. That's the only spoiler I'm giving.
high-octane zombie thriller set on a speeding bullet train. The film combined intense action with genuine emotional stakes, forcing characters to confront both the undead and the depths of...
This guy right here, he's a fucking asshole. He gets everybody killed on that movie except for the 2 people that make it out. He's literally the most narcissistic retard. If you haven't, I mean, he's a good actor. He's made people hate him. So he's a really good actor, but if you do watch the movie, this guy, I know you would resonate with me when I say that we all hate him.
Human selfishness and altruism. Its fresh take on the zombie genre left viewers clamoring for more, thus eventually leading to a piss-poor animated prequel and a half-baked but nonetheless...
I think the animation was okay. I think it's called Train to Seoul. I don't know. I don't know how to pronounce it. And then this is Train to Busan 2. Train to Busan 2 was decent. It wasn't nothing crazy in my opinion. It did capture the elements of like a more open world zombie movie, but at the same time it wasn't as scary or as uniquely terrifying, in my opinion.
Entertaining sequel. Nevertheless, I've elected to cover these 3 iconic Korean films in order to determine your odds of survival in a hypothetical Korean virus outbreak. So I hope you got your tickets in hand, because the next stop is the Korean zombie apocalypse. In order to ascertain your odds of survival, we're first gonna have to analyze the primary threat to your life in this thought experiment, being the Korean super sprinters. The zombies in the Train to Busan universe are legitimately undead, and this is pretty much confirmed in the opening shot of the film. As such, in order to permanently put down one of these freaks, you're gonna have to destroy the brain.
Just like every other zombie movie, it follows destroying the brain to make them stop moving and being animated and having any functional control.
Which, unfortunately for you, would be much easier said than done. These zombies aren't just stupidly fast, but they're also ridiculously durable and resilient, being able to tank falling from impressive heights and also being able to shrug off heavy damage. These biters are also relentless when pursuing their prey, but they don't actually attack to consume, but rather assault to spread their contagion. Some might view this to be a weakness, but
I mean, what would you do in that situation? Let's say in real life, some shit like this happens, and the zombies are not walking; they're literally sprinting at you, like you're running a fucking 100-meter track, and they're like jumping from side to side. Like, what do you do? Do you just give up at that point? Like, do you just say, "Yeah, fuck you, just get me, bruh," or do you like? I don't know. I don't know if you're outrunning those things, but let me know what you would do, because I'm gonna have to find a fucking rocket to Mars.
this actually makes these Zeds even more terrifying, as they're not aiming to remove potential hosts from the game, but rather are seeking to maximize their numbers. That being said, these undead tweakers are very responsive to light and noise sources. This is the case because their vision is severely impaired in the dark and even in low light conditions. That's right, these super sprinters have a glaring weakness, being that they're not much of a threat if they're out in the dark and if they can't hear you. Hell, just cutting line of sight with these zombies is enough to get them to stop chasing you. It's like they have the memory of a goldfish. Cover up.
Because they're just hypersensitive at that point. They like the virals of dying life, you know. They're very hypersensitive to sound and light, and like just Yeah, auditory and visuals are very hypersensitive for them.
Up some glass with newsprint and they stop banging the glass panels. Toss a coat on this idiot and he'll just forget you exist. They're also too stupid to open doors, and their attention
They're hella aggressive, but they're like really stupid.
can easily be diverted with bright lights and loud noises. Be that as it may, they do have a terrifyingly long shelf life, as they aren't really shown to starve, given that they still inhabit South Korea 4 years after the initial outbreak.
Which is crazy because almost every zombie movie I've watched shows the same exact thing. It's like zombies have photosynthesis adaptation. Like, how does that even work? Shouldn't they be starving, be emaciated, or malnourished? But they're all relatively the same weight.
So, despite these glaring weaknesses, we can for sure forget about trying to outlast these fuckers. So, the virus in Train to Busan is literally an unnamed contagion that is only ever referred to as the virus.
That's very creative.
Kinda lazy if you ask me, so I'm just gonna be calling it the Korean virus from now on. That said, the Korean virus is known to have originated from a Korean biotech company that fucked around and found out.
Well. A usual suspect. Our favorite companies, right?
Now, this novel contagion infects people and some animals before then seemingly killing them quickly and then subsequently zombifying them. As such, the incubation period is incredibly short, which is very much in line with modern zombie movies like World War Z and 28 Days Later.
Yeah, 28 Days was brutal, bro. I recommend you guys watch that as well. And World War Z at the same time. I think Train to Busan shares a lot of characteristics with these both movies in terms of the zombies. But they have their distinctiveness.
While this is great for cinematic tension, it sorta sucks for the transmissibility of this pathogen. The Korean virus is also only spread through physical contact, thus
Which makes
further
sense.
hampering its transmissibility. And we have no real evidence to suggest that the virus can be spread by the mere exchange of bodily fluids, thus leading me to believe this virus is primarily spread through the vector of saliva, hence the whole biting phenomena. That being said, it's always better to be safe than sorry. As such, it would be prudent to assume that infected bodily fluids are contagious. We also know that this virus brought the nation of South Korea to its knees in just a few days, which does make a little bit of sense considering that South Korea is one of the most densely populated countries on Earth.
Yep.
It's essentially a perfect place to unleash a virus like this.
Shit, it was spread like wildfire within the first 10 minutes. You have like probably from one person within 10 minutes, probably get 100 people infected.
But we also know that North Korea was instrumental in quarantining the virus within the confines of South Korea's national borders. And it's also reasonable to speculate that China and Western nations assisted in the quarantine of the Korean peninsula. Oh, and yeah, here's a spoiler alert, but Busan eventually fell after many civilians were safely evacuated from the doomed city.
You say, I'd evacuate too. I'm not staying in that fucking shit. You seen what they did yo, did you see what they did to the other cities, those zombies? Yeah, we're getting the fuck out of here.
Given everything we've covered thus far, I can confidently say that your odds of survival in this scenario would heavily depend on where you are in relation to the epicenter of the Korean viral outbreak. These super sprinting zombies can't swim and are fairly dormant at night, once the power grid goes out. And given the nature of this disease, these Zeds will only really spread like wildfire in densely populated regions. As such, nations like Japan and South Korea would struggle with this virus, whereas larger nations like the United States or Australia are perfectly suited to surviving the virus. There's no special infected and no airborne variant, so distance will prevent.
Yeah, they're all regular zombies or just regular sprinters. There's no like one mutated type that you see in Dying Light where you have virals, biters, you have volatiles, you have demolishers, you have spitters. You don't see these variants, and they all have their weakness, which is darkness, and which literally makes them very dormant. Yeah, as you said.
Rapid spread in regions which are sparsely populated, thus granting governments plenty of time to mobilize their militaries to contain and eventually eliminate the undead threat. Hence, if you're across the planet, you'll be fine. Likely never seeing a super sprinting zombie outside of the news footage you see on TVs.
Yeah, so a virus like this is very quarantinable. I mean, just the city alone. It'd be easily quarantined by the military or something.
And on TikTok Reels. Simply put, fast viral incubation and zombification processes makes the transatlantic and or transpacific spread of this virus virtually impossible unless an infested boat happens to beach itself on the coast of a country, somehow being undetected by the Coast Guard or Navy. But if you're in an urban environment, near or at ground zero, your odds would be alarmingly low. This is the case because you'd be in the prime environment for the zombie disease to spread. You'd literally be surrounded by a city of zombies, desperately violent survivors, and within a red zone that would be nearly impossible to safely escape.
Yeah, living in a city would be very rough if some shit like this happened. Because you're practically in between traffic everywhere. And in front of apartment buildings, people, like, you're just so clusterfucked by the claustrophobic environment that you just can't escape.
Just
The only thing you could do is probably just hide.
the initial outbreak alone
Even
could
then they'll
end your
find
run,
you.
as you likely would be blindsided by hordes of super sprinters besieging your local park, your place of work, your college, the subway you take every day, your local supermarket, and so forth. Nevertheless, you should attempt to minimize any noise you make, and you'd also want to only move under the cover of darkness, assuming you live long enough to observe their nocturnal blindness. Now, barricading your home wouldn't be difficult, as merely cutting line of sight and noise-proofing your house or apartment would be all that you really need to do. But unfortunately for you, you're eventually going to have to scavenge or get the hell out of Dodge, if you're not supremely stocked on food, water, and general survival supplies. That said, when you decide to leave, that's when shit would really get dangerous for you. Remember, you can't outlast these creatures, so you're eventually going to have to leave. With that being said, night vision goggles and or thermal sights would be overpowered staples in this apocalypse. Flares, firecrackers, smoke grenades, and drones would also serve as incredibly potent tools for distracting and hurting the undead. If you're going to fight these Zeeks, it would help to have firearms armed with subsonic ammunition and suppressors, because melee combat, without serious bite-proof armor, is just an unwise activity to partake in, really only ever being justified as an option of last resort.
Yeah, using melee weapons in a zombie environment is kind of like death. Like you're asking to die. Because you're not taking out 5 zombies at once that are sprinting at you with a melee weapon. This is more like a fucking video game concept. In real life, you're gonna hit 1 or 2. They're probably not gonna go down. They're probably just gonna get like dismembered. And the other one's just gonna jump on top of you. Like, it's not practical. You need weapons. You need firearms. You need suppressors. You need something that actually takes them down without making sound.
All in all, the best doctrine in this apocalypse is just to remain unseen and unheard. Now, in the countryside, far from the epicenter of the outbreak, you would have the advantage of prep time. You won't be blindsided by this zombie uprising, and you'll have plenty of options available to you. Being in the countryside, you also have the advantage of incredibly dark nights. Hence, you'll benefit from having much higher odds of survival, assuming you can somehow meet your nutritional and hydration needs. But keep in mind that if you're camping outside, whether it be in an urban or wilderness environment, you'll want to make sure the light emanating from your open flame can't be detected from a distance. During the day, you'll also want to make sure that smokestack is kept to a minimum. Like most zombie apocalypses that feature powerful super sprinters, you can expect regionalized societal collapses or even nationwide civilizational collapse, but it really depends on the nation. The power grid would eventually go down in your area, water distribution and treatment infrastructure would also cease to function, and you'd also have to contend with desperately violent survivors who you'll be competing with for access to limited shelter and resources. But despite all of this particular outbreak would likely be contained and under control in larger countries within a few weeks. In densely populated nations, this would be less likely, but this is far from a human extinction event. And depending on where this outbreak occurs, The world may or may not be thrusted into a global economic depression in the aftermath of this epidemic. Now, in a worst case scenario, continents could be potentially lost, thus causing a snowball of negative cascading effects that lead to a global famine, economic depression, and conflicts. And this terrible aftermath would definitely be a threat to you, even if you never even get to see a zombie. Anyways, if you like this sort of content, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel.
So in summary, this virus would probably die out, in my opinion. It would just only affect regional, not like regional cities and densely suburbs. It wouldn't go anywhere outside that because it's easily containable. You just have to quarantine the zone off, and it can't spread continentally because it's under tight regulation and zombies don't fucking swim, it seems like. So yeah, it would just be practically impossible. Your survival rate would be pretty high unless you live in one of these areas, then you're fucked. But other than that, yeah, you should be fine. Anyways, hope y'all enjoyed this video. Give me to 1K subs and peace out.